very
show us
full,
the
yeah.
roof. Come on, break
Oh,
something
she
out.
does. She's so bad. She does. But
Come on.
She is the biggest smile on her face out there.
Is that you with a big smile?
But
Yeah,
Matt,
that's me.
Not
are you
bad.
shy right now and not break out a cheer for us?
She's saving her energy for the last game.
one last hurrah.
The
Yeah.
most
Big
amazing
thing.
thing is when you're in the van with these two and a country song comes on the radio and they just let it rip. You could literally play Name That Tune with these two.
Oh, I know.
There's not a country song that they play on POR that these two don't know 90%.
And then they go back to academic year and ride with Mr. Zach and his rock.
Yeah.
All right, so who was the best bus riding singing in that group? Huh? Who played the best?
You know, Ellen.
She gets the good snacks, this
Yeah.
time, right?
No?
I'll make sure there's
Oh,
lunch
right
kits for
to his
Ellen in the
face,
van
too,
tomorrow.
nope.
Oh, man. You guys wouldn't stop singing when I was on the van.
There's nothing cooler than on a bus ride home and the whole bus just breaks out in song.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
It is so awesome.
It's like a mini concert.
It is, you know, I hate to, I've been on a lot of defeated bus rides on the way home, and when they break into song, you're like, okay,
They're gonna
okay.
be all right.
They're okay.
They're all right. Yeah.
I was just thinking that.
They
Right when you
go-
said it, I was like,
Yeah.
even on the ones where you lose.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
it's an inner rally.
It's just, yeah, it's just a group of girls.
They're not taking themselves too serious.
Exactly. Play because you want to play and have fun. Even if it is, you know, that's my theory when I play those.
Same with me.
I'm lucky to make it.
We
to-
hardly won at all.
I'm psyched I made it to the game. That's just, you know, small goals. Let alone win or lose. Just don't get injured and make it to the game.
Minor, you guys.
I,
Is anyone else
I,
coming? Or?
I'm assuming,
No,
I don't think he's coming.
I think he was.
I'm sure he has his hands full with.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I guess we got.
Do I message her?
Who should be to the right of you?
I have her number.
This is Tom and
I have her number.
Yep.
Message her.
Tom has medical.
Do you guys want me to message
I
her?
don't know about the key.
Yeah, he mentioned that to me last week.
Yeah. I gotta say, I wish I was able to stick through that whole walkthrough. And man, I wish there was so many other people that have had questions were at that walkthrough. Because should we start? I don't know.
Well, I don't think we've met though.
Before I
I
told
think
her.
we have, but I was sitting on the
Oh, you were in the back. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
forgot your
Amber
name.
Sweat.
Was it?
Amber Sweat.
Oh, okay,
She was
yes,
on
all right.
budget committee.
All right,
I just texted Vicky, I'll see if she responds.
Okay.
sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's
My
fine.
memory.
That is
Sure.
fine.
Texting and biking? Is that even a thing? Can you
Yeah.
do that?
I hope not.
Because she's probably on a bike.
How about that?
Control it with our feet or something.
That's Siri helping you out there. I never trust Siri. Dictate too, because it usually messes up. I guess we're, you texting Vicky right now? We can just roll, yeah. I do,
Yeah, I just threw some stuff in these folders and it's just kind of information, so you have it
Yep.
in case you have questions or something.
I will say that walkthrough was very informational, just for me, because I thought I understood everything, but you gave, how many times I walked by those high platforms by the swim area, and everybody's like, how do you bring a boat up to that? Never knowing that that was lifeguard stations,
Yeah.
higher than, makes total sense
Yeah.
now. But walking through, I'm like, I don't know how you boat from there, it's
Yeah.
pretty high getting your stuff up.
Not intended.
Makes total sense now.
Yeah.
It makes total sense now. And the walkthrough prior to it, I had no clue. I knew we went to the Boy Scout amphitheater there, whatever you want to call it, but I had no clue. Even way beyond that, there's so much. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But anyways, I personally, I don't know everybody else, but I walked it with Tom and Lindsay. I felt myself that you guys did a good job cleaning up. I don't know how everybody else
Yeah, so
feels.
different tables all stacked.
The plywood windows were a huge plus. How else do you deter from opening windows if not that? It was cleaned up. It was really well cleaned. It swept out. Everything was organized. Compared to the year prior to,
Yeah.
and I know you can't, I mean, people breaking in and that's beyond you guys, but I felt like you deterred it as much as you could.
Yeah.
Listening to you walk around on, like, knowing that the Wise facility maintenance guys come out, blow the lines out, and do all the other, that's things that aren't in the it's not written out in the contract. So people, when they're against it or,
Asking
whatever,
questions.
asking questions, thank you, Jesus Christ.
Well,
That you don't know that stuff, and there's stuff that's involved with it that the general public don't know, but is within the benefit of that contract, I guess.
for sure, yeah.
That's the word I was putting.
And that's truly how we see it, like we see the contract as a mutually beneficial scenario. Like, the new bridge that we built, like you had brought up that the old one that went from the volleyball court to the Pines was dilapidated, and, my attempt at using pallets, only lasted so many years before those rotted away. And we were fortunate from another great relationship we have with Waban that their, pressure treated docks that they were no longer going to use at their waterfront property on El Pond, they gave those to us. And we were able to then take and flip those and turn them into a wonderful bridge at Bunganut Lake Park. And then the one on the other side that we built, using our materials and our old light posts after our big expansion. And, it's a win for everybody. We got good, safe bridges to use and access as we move kids around, but the town of Lyman and all the patrons of the park get to, access that same stuff too. It's mutually beneficial.
I know there's always a lot of questions arise, and I love that there is more to it, and I know there's more to it, and it'd be great if everybody could see that there is more to it. And everybody knows I'm pro park. I'm pro park. I don't have an agenda, but that would be my agenda if I had one. I'm just pro that park. Anyways, so we keep going out like that.
Sorry, I'm late. First time.
Did she bring gifts?
Thank
You brought
Hi, Vicky.
gifts.
You missed out. You didn't get a sticker last week. Good evening.
Vicky, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing really good.
Awesome. Hi, Michelle.
Give Vicky a couple minutes to jump in here, but anybody else want to jump in where we're at? I mean, comments?
I have to say that I was a little disappointed in the length of time that it took to get the answers back, that they just came today at, the first date of the email is September 29th, and we just get them today. Doesn't really give a lot of time for me, especially with my head the way it is right now, to even think of questions that I would want to ask. And I don't know, for me, it's just like, it feels like there's a level of disrespect there that when the town manager reaches out in September, and then we don't hear back until, I think the one was October 11th, and that was only to acknowledge that, yes, we'll be at the workshop. None of the questions were answered. Then she went back with one other question, but that wasn't answered in here. So I think that there needs to be something where when we reach out for information, we need to set something like, okay, you have so much time to get this to us. And I don't know if that is something that we do in the contract or if that's something that we just do as a group working together, to go forward.
And I definitely recognize that, and I would agree that I think that, we should do a better job of responding to your communications much quicker.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Absolutely, understand that. We will do a better job moving forward. So I don't know that needs to be part of the contract. I just sense, an open conversation around time
Yeah.
and timeliness to be able to resolve situations in a more efficient way.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I appreciate that. I mean, it just feels like then we're working in partnership together
Mhm.
versus we're just like, okay, wait, where's our information? Oh, okay, great, it's coming at 1:30 today or whatever time it came in today. I don't know,
There
so,
was about
Yeah, that
Way too
was,
late.
that was one of my big things.
I did have a question about like the dumpster, and I know like Matt had said that at one point, the company wasn't picking it up. So I was wondering, and it's kind of a suggestion, I think, is there a phone at the booth, the staff booth?
We started to work on that project this year. And the line, so we bought a phone, hooked it up, and the line wasn't functioning. And then we had a service guy come out. I think I talked to you about that. We
Yeah.
sent a service guy come out. He said he was gonna fix it. He looked at it. He was like, yeah, I can't fix it on site. It's something else he had to go do, and then never came back to do that.
Okay, because I do remember we did talk about that, so I don't remember where we left off on it, but I think, again, to like Amber's point too, like, those things, if you just communicate to us, we can try to work and resolve it, but I was wondering if we do get a phone set up in that booth, like, you know, we pay a contractor weekly to pick up the trash, so if you guys are there helping us manage the park and you find that they're not picking up the trash, you can have the staff either call my office directly, like maybe we can leave a phone book or, you know, list of numbers they can call. That way it doesn't have to circulate to like a bunch of different people. I just think better streamlining that communication if it helps. Because we want to resolve those things. If there's like an issue, trash isn't being picked up, I know the board would want to resolve it and try to make it work. And so,
Is there a landline there?
It's a landline that runs to the booth.
yeah.
Because I thought I read in the contract that it's our responsibility to have a
Yes.
phone line there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Matt and I were communicating that, so, they were working on getting a phone, but there was a line issue, so we were going, it was between Matt, myself, the treasurer, trying to get that. I think, somewhere along the line, we got lost in communication, because, it was something that didn't get resolved, but that's something I can look into, we can try to,
Who's our trash guy down there?
What's that?
CIA.
I'll see. Oh,
The other one that's challenging for us too, and like, you know, we stand on it, and I certainly try to communicate the best I can around it, is the mowing contract. And like, we don't ever see that contract. I don't know what the scope of work is. I don't know what they should or shouldn't be doing on the park side. I don't know to what level of care, for example, like the small patches of grass that are in front of the booth, around the booth, to the left of it, you know, the weeds that grow up in front of the entrance rock walls. Grass can grow pretty high over by like where the pump house is, and even like the bamboo that grows behind the pump house. Like if we didn't address that, if I didn't have like my camp staff address that every year, there would be no upper parking lot. Like the bamboo would just come. So, you know, I don't know, like I don't mind having them do it, like good teamwork and team building for them as they launch off into a summer camp. Staff adventure, if they can figure out how to manage bamboo and keep that at bay, then they should be good with the kids too. But, you know, so like, it's not that I have a problem doing it, it's just what I can report to you is a good steward of watching over the park of what's being done and what's not being done, you know, so.
That's a good point.
Or is like what I have my staff do something you're paying to have someone else do? Because right
Right.
now, all summer long, we mow around the booth, we whack the whole parking lot, we clear the brush, we clear the bamboo, we, you know, keep that parking area on the roadside leading up to Bunganut looking as if you would want to go in there when you drive by it. Maybe there's a mowing contractor that drives by and goes, sweet, I'm glad they're taking care of that, I ain't gotta do it. And then hits the field and off they go, you know, I don't know. What I do know is when they come, they don't ever come to the top parking lot, you know, so I reached out to Lindsay a couple times over the summer and asked that question and.
Yeah, you did get a scope of work, and I can reach out to the lawnmower and figure that out.
I mean, there's not much obviously they're gonna do this year, but just if it's I don't know how that works, if it's a multi-year contract for the same mower.
area.
I don't think it covers things like the bamboo, it should cover them, I'm pretty sure it covers the mowing in the parking area and weed whacking and stuff up by the booth. If I remember correctly, it was kind of a line itemed scope of work. It's pretty,
Do you remember if it included like that lower auxiliary parking lot that we market as like when you rent the Pines, you get this parking lot over here for your party, like?
I don't think it included that. I can double check. I know the
Somebody,
upper one
who
it
mows
did.
that now? Cause it's, you guys mow that parking lot across the street?
Man, like, you know, on a
Maybe it
slow,
should be
on a
included
slow,
because-
on a slow Tuesday, I'll let somebody push mow it if it gets real bad, or.
It's definitely utilized as a parking facility.
Oh, for sure, yeah, like, even on busy weekends, we
Right,
send
and if,
overflow down
and
there.
if we're renting the Pines, we need someplace for them to park.
Well, that should be part of the mowing contract.
Right,
I
and
would
that's what I'm
think,
saying,
so
maybe we can,
that would be a good idea.
Yep.
And then let them know, maybe, or give them a copy of it, or so they can discern if things are getting done, if they're not getting done. Tell us, or tell Lindsay, it's getting done, it's not getting done.
what's supposed to be done, yeah.
What's supposed to be done is, yeah, that's, I mean, that would all, these got good points, these are all good things to know. And communication, I think is key for all of this. I mean, how do you feel like everything's been working?
I mean, I think this year, and last year, you know, it's certainly been, you know, on an upswing, I guess we'll say, for lack of better terms. I think this year was phenomenal, having Lindsay to reach out to and discuss problems with, like around, you know, whatever it was we talked about over the summer, the dumpster, or, you know, porta potties at times. She and I discussed a whole bunch, and, you know, boat launch stuff or questions she's had that people call here and ask questions about it. And she asked me, like, help me understand what kind of boats can be launched over here. And so it's great to have that, you know, point person to talk to, and somebody that, you know, as a town manager is communicating on a regular basis. And, you know, I certainly, you know, to Amber's point, the response to those questions is 100% on me, and something that Andy asked me to take care of, and I just continued to drop the ball on. And on the burners of things cooking, and, you know, flames start up every day, I'm sure, in professional worlds. You know, the fire that's burning brightest in front of my face gets my attention, and that's on me. I should have been better about getting you guys those answers for sure, so I apologize for that. But, you know, having Lindsay to talk to has been very, very good. You know, like I got Rusty's cell phone number, I got Tom's cell phone number, you know, and know how to get a hold of the Pickard family when I want to. And, you know, so I mean, having some connection there and having some relationship and having an understanding, and just walking around the other day. Like, I don't know that I, you know, have been invited to or asked to walk around with the select board at Bucknell Lake Park and answer questions on site about, like, tell me about this, or what's going on over here, what's that, or, you know, how do you think we can make improvements to generate more revenue, or things like that, you know what I mean? And so I love being part of those conversations. One, because I, you know, want to be a good steward professionally of Bucknell Lake Park, but, you know, it's deeper than that for me. Like, I rode my bike there. It was my first job ever my entire life. I used to ride my bike there from my house, you know, like, so I love Bucknell Lake Park. I think it's one of the hidden little treasures in southern Maine, that as much as I want it to be super full and the town of Lyman to make a bunch of money by operating it, I also don't, because I know what happens, like, you know, and we're already at capacity on some weekends, not another spot to put another car, like getting creative about where we can stuff an extra vehicle because people want in. So I mean, the opportunity is there to really blow it up, I think, and like have it be something pretty awesome. You know, you find a lot of people come from the beach, like the residents of the beach come to Bucknell Lake Park to avoid the craziness of the beach in the summertime. And then we got a ton of Kennebunk Port, Wells, like they just love coming to the lake because it's quiet, and it's cool, and it's chill. It's not the craziness of the beach that they get access to just by living in town, you know. So sort of a balance there, I think.
Can I ask a question? I'm on the Bucknell Park committee that we just formed.
Yeah.
And we had put out an advertisement then, because your mom came along.
Yeah.
If anyone wanted to come on the walkthrough we did. I mean, I think if it's okay, maybe mentioning, come to the Bucknell committee meetings.
Yeah.
So you can help,
I'm
you can
telling
help
you,
us.
I
Because
said
we
it
took a
prior.
bunch of pictures, we're putting together a slideshow, like a PowerPoint, and we have questions, and like also to help for the vision, because you've been there.
Yeah.
You're working it, and you know the land better than anyone. So you would be a fantastic tool for the committee to know, you know, the things they're thinking about, would it work? You would maybe know that. And, you know, where could we expand for parking? And, you know, we're looking at getting grants. We want to do trails. We want to do improvements with most of it with grants. And if we can get any funding going or have fundraisers to do it.
Let's
So
see Four Season use.
that's what we're
Oh,
looking for, is
unbelievable.
the pond for the water, Parks and Rec was thinking of using that for ice skating versus the ice skating rink. It's empowering that lot.
Yes.
We could do that. So the next meeting's on the 13th, if either you can make it.
13th of November.
November.
Sure.
And maybe we could just leave the Y in, if the select board will be okay with that, whenever we have a meeting.
Could you imagine if he walked through that meeting with us when we did that walkthrough?
And that's just
Like,
it.
that's what I was thinking, the questions that were asked would have been
But maybe
answered.
that still can happen in the spring. We can go when you're starting.
I would agree with that. I was gonna suggest that that invite's always been there to come over and see and be part of what's going on, and even to come over and see, because a lot of questions happen around camp. I'm not sure how to be a parent or that's taking advantage of that service. But to come over and see what's happening, we can talk about the energy of camp as a parent or as a organization. But until you see it in action, until you feel it, you're not going to really get a true sense of the energy and what is happening there. And not only it represents, our organization is running the camp, but it also reflects upon the work that's happening at the town. It's another opportunity for us to have those types of tours during the summer with activity. And once again, I would definitely think that, doing a pre-season tour would be really helpful and beneficial. So we kind of did that this year, and I would agree with Matt that over the last couple of years, the communication and connection has been significantly improved. And so that for us, that's also incredibly helpful. So we're not guessing. The changes and adjustments that we made this year are fantastic because it's information that you want to have, and we were just going by, what we thought you wanted. Now we really have some tweaking going on that's going to help with data collection for you guys to support however you need to. So happy to continue to have those experiences together, and we always end up having a lunch once a year with my board members at camp, and it's a combination of a barbecue. I come over with a grill and barbecue burgers and dogs and veggie burgers and serve our staff as a thank you. But we also invite the board to come over and see it, and you guys have always been invited also. So it might be a nice opportunity to connect with some of the leadership from the Y. So just additional things to consider next year as we're moving on. So if you see an invite, you'll know that it's a little bit more about.
Just knowing how it functions and being able to relay that into the questions that we receive will be helpful. It's pretty helpful.
There's certainly some opportunity to I think, I see it every day. I walk by it, I live it, 10 weeks a year. And there's really, I know money is tight everywhere in every budget, whether it's a municipal budget or a nonprofit budget or probably even for a for-profit corporate American budget, money's tight. And I understand that, but I think with some, financial investment from the town, in a couple things, you could pay for, get your return on investment very quickly. And, I know what I pay, when I go to a state park and rent the gazebo at a state park, as our location, I know how much I pay that for a day, which is substantially more than renting the Pines, so if there was a spot somewhere above that Lake Park that you could put up a gazebo at, then we could get 2 rentals in there every, weekdays and market that and push that 3. Absolutely.
When we walked it, we're like, 1, 2, 3 Pines. So that's where the Buckeye Committee is already thinking to start there, just so you know, if you have ideas. But yeah, that's.
So the parking, increased parking would
Yep.
probably have to be a part of that as
Yep.
well, but I
Exactly.
mean, because I think there's so many ideas and there's so many things, you could get completely overwhelmed and have paralysis.
Mhm.
So I love the idea that there's a committee. I love the idea that you're gonna come and communicate and be part of that. And you have, I know you have a passion from there. You talk about riding your bike there when you were a kid and whatnot. I see this as an opportunity to bring the community tighter together as well. And I mean, I don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
I don't,
That's a great opportunity.
I think it is, and I think we're going about this the right way. But I also think that this communication is key, like sitting here talking right now.
Yeah.
Is beneficial. It's not, he said, she said, and if we work together, we can achieve anything.
I agree.
And I think continue with something that we talked about, I think probably 5 or 6 years ago, as we were starting to look at, longer term contracts and renewing our contracts and, rebuilding, we do take pride in being there and being good stewards of our responsibilities. And, probably 2 contracts passed, I should say. The question was, what would you want to do with it? And my comment was, well, if it was our property, here's some things that we would consider doing. And things like gazebos and improving parking spaces and accessibility around the waterfront. All those things are things that have started to occur, and being able to do some improved trails, because as you said, 80% of the trails aren't even used. Because it's all that piece that's going up above and beyond over where the Boy Scout camp is. That whole space up there is just a phenomenal, tract of land.
It's
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it is.
And it's hardly used, because most people don't know about it, but prior to, you guys doing all the timbering, that you did, which is phenomenal. We had trail systems designed up there that our kids were designing and developing. You had a Eagle Scout come through and help with marking the trails and set up a map. That was just beautiful. So as things continue to grow, those would be the things that you can continue to highlight, which I think patrons are looking to have that experience and being able to do more.
Do you still have those? The plans that the Eagle Scout would have drawn up, or would they have been sent to the town at some point, or?
Yeah, I mean, he came here and gave a big presentation to the select board the year that he finished up and put his signs up and gave, he had pamphlets made, and there were pamphlets available here at town hall for a while for all the stuff in the working trails.
Do you know
that he
what
did.
year that was?
I could probably go back into the abyss of my inbox and my email and dig that up. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if that's something that,
I feel like
You
it was
know.
more than 6 years ago.
It might have been, yes.
Oh, yeah.
It was a
Because I was
while.
gonna say, it was, I don't remember that part.
Yeah.
It sticks with me.
It's ringing a little bell in the
if it's already
dregs in my mind, so it could have been
been
10 years
done,
ago.
you know, like-
If it's like a, something marked trails are kind of ready to go and just be cleaned up again, that'd be fantastic.
yeah.
They kind of, some of them were just obliviated by open space.
Yeah.
And so now,
Yeah.
but now that stuff is growing back up.
Yeah.
And they're definitely up in there, the Boy Scouts, because I passed somebody coming out the other night with a car. So I was like, all right, well, they're in here.
Yeah, no, they're at that building, at least once a week for like weekly meetings or
Oh, really?
over the course of the summer for sure. Like I'll be doing, filling in at the booth to close one on a weeknight or whatever, and I'll be like walking the park to make sure, and all of a sudden there's like 5 kids in that amphitheater that we went to. And I'm like, wait a minute, like who are these kids? Like, why are you in here? There's no cars in the parking lot. They're like, oh no, we're with the Boy Scouts, we're totally fine, we're just down here, whatever.
Yep.
On break or something. And they scamper off back up the hill towards the building. But yeah, they're in there for sure, definitely over the summer.
Going back a little bit to like the data you were talking about and stuff that you guys were collecting, which has been really great. So I think, because we've been coordinating to try to look at what traffic looks like over there, and this year's been a weird one with all the rain. But I do think like, one of the things I noticed in talking with Matt and you and stuff is like, we had set up a fee schedule, but it seems like you guys charge a lot of other fees that we were never really privy to. And I can imagine like, it must be really cumbersome for your staff to check off. I mean, when I started creating forms, I was like adding more columns to it. And I would probably suggest to the board, like we look at simplifying that and maybe just stick to a simple, I think we've hit our max too, as far as fees go, because the park needs a lot of like renovations. I think, there's a lot of stuff. Hopefully we can get some grants and in the next couple of years, work towards really building some stuff over there. But I do kind of looking at some of the data, and there's obviously, we've put down stuff like motorcycles was a $10 fee versus a $20 one, but I only see motorcycles on here like once or twice. So to help your staff so they're not having this ridiculous form, I would recommend just limiting that. We keep it a simple, like, I don't remember what it said in the parks thing. It was pretty basic in the park management rules. It was just like, day, non-resident, resident, seasonal. I wouldn't even do a weekly anymore, because I think you
Yeah,
only
no,
sell
it
one weekly pass every year and that's it. And then maybe like an after 4 PM one.
And I think,
Half.
of all the weird ones that we get the most pushback from is the after 4 one.
Yeah.
You know,
And that one kind of makes sense, but I'd almost kind of, and then I think we talked about too of like those big,
that and senior
Oh,
citizens and veterans, we get pushback from those two as well.
As far as that they have to pay a fee or that the fee is too high?
That the fee is the same as everybody else.
so right now they get charged $10 for senior citizens and veterans.
And everyone else gets charged 20.
Yeah. But then
So
we
it's not the
had a walk-in and a bicycle, which was $10. Motorcycles was $10. After 4 PM was $10, I thought made sense. So,
On this, it says we have, there's veterans and then there's senior citizen and veterans. Right there
I
could
probably just
eliminate.
doubled it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's $10.
I wanted to notice that before she noticed.
I see.
I'm not gonna notice anything tonight. Sorry, I'll just.
She's all right.
right now. I think the other, like being on the budget committee and last year, was it last year? When we were like trying to figure out like how your numbers made sense with the money. And there was just no way. It was like, I mean, even Jeanette was like, I don't understand. I mean, they're still like looking at the dates of the park, reservations, and then the daily attendance sheet. It's like sometimes they've been marked on here, but they're not on the sheet that we get. So that throws, if we're trying to like look and keep like, okay, how is the money coming in? Like what day was it?
So I think at one point over the summer, one of the things that Lindsay and I discussed was, what information are you actually trying to get? Like, are you trying to get how much money does it make each day, or how many people come in each day?
I think, yeah.
Because to get that and have that both on the same form, it's gonna look incredibly confusing, because if I come in on Monday and buy a resident pass, then I pay the $100 or whatever it is, right? And then I come back on Tuesday and use my resident pass. So that's where you would see like a check mark, like, came in and used a resident pass. We didn't sell a pass that day. Someone came in and used that pass and had 8 people in their car. So differentiating, did you sell a pass or did someone come in and use a pass? And then that's where, all these columns start to get like incredibly cumbersome. So
Yeah, that's why I think like,
Makes sense.
to Lindsay's point, to simplify it, but to be able to look at the end of the day and just be like, okay, we had, 17 cars. Well, you look at cars are supposed to be this and, oh, okay, well, how do they figure?
Right, but on a Tuesday,
know.
you could have 17 cars, but only 2 of them paid.
Yeah, and I think when I talked with your finance folks over there, we
Yeah.
kind of came up with there's a column you're counting the cars, and then we just wanted, as far as like a seasonal pass, I only wanted the documentation of who paid. Because you're still gonna check, okay, a car came in, 8 people was in the car. It's, if you put seasonal and there's no dollar amount next to it, then I know it's just a seasonal pass revisiting the park.
Yeah.
And so as far as like when I'm looking at this, and on like this side, this is just what they paid. So we did narrow that down. I think that helped. The first month we did it, it was confusing, and then I met with them and we kind of untangled that. So there will always be that discrepancy if you're trying to do 17 cars and $20 per whatever. It's not going to make sense. But on this side, it's what whoever paid, which helps. But then I think too, like we get rid of the weekly, get rid of like some of this extra stuff.
It saves a bunch of work and money on the onset too, because you don't have to make those passes. And
Mhm.
I mean, it's small money, to make 100 weekly passes that you're not going to sell any of, but still, it's money time that you're spending in designing the pass and putting it together and printing it. For sure, yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time we sold Liberty Pass, maybe one this summer, maybe.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think last year's one,
Yeah.
one repeat.
And we don't ever sell 3-day passes, you know, like that doesn't happen really. Because, you know, if you come and you buy a 3-day pass, that means you probably live locally. And if you love it to come 3 times, then you love it to come 20 times, and you just do the math in your head real quick and pay the $100 and buy a season pass.
I mean,
So-
and I found the one that I was thinking, so there's, from the daily attendance sheet, on 6/21, there was one rental of Pines for $250. But on this sheet, there is one rental for the Pines, but it shows that only $140 was taken in. So for me right there, I'm like, okay, well, if I just going down looking at the Pines, it's like, okay, well, that should be $250. So where does the 140 come from? That's where my mind, like with math and numbers, like I want to look, okay, if I know one rental at Pines is $250, but you took in $140 in cash, well, where's the other $250? That,
Right,
you know, so that's
yeah,
what I'm
for sure.
saying, when it doesn't match up and you can't, you know, the numbers just don't make sense. That, for me, that's, you know, like even this, the Daily Grove Pine Reservation form shows $2,900 total, but down here from daily attendance sheet shows 5,000. What's the discrepancy?
And I did just send that out to all you guys like today, so I mentioned to Matt, like, probably won't be able to put together all that information tonight, but yeah, I just done that up, and that was something I had noticed between, because you guys have like your own forms you fill out, and you mark like when the reservation will be, and you know, when you collected the payment, but I did notice like the forms aren't fully completed. So me, like you guys looking at them could probably tell, oh, that was this day and this person and so on and so forth. When I'm looking at the form, some of it's just blank. It'll have like a name, maybe a date, but I don't know if you collected money. I don't know when they reserved the spot. So I was trying to compare that to the attendance sheet, and I think I'd made a separate one that I just did up real quick. And that you'll see like in your email is just, it's for us to try to look at it from an outside perspective.
Yeah.
It's
So
hard
another-
to break it down.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Lindsay. So there's a rental from July 9th for a church gathering. It says already paid per Jess, paid YMCA, doesn't say when, but you go to the July 9th, there's no mark for a rental for the Pines, and you took in $120. On the sheet over here, July 9th, question mark for name of group, question mark for attendees, church gathering, date of payment, question mark, there's no total. And then there's not even, from your daily attendance sheets there's not even a July 9th on there. So it's like,
Right, so this year, so it's hard because when people, so that church group didn't come, and we didn't collect $250, and there's no daily total sheet because it was pouring rain. So the hard part is like when people will call and reserve it, and they'll call and say, I want the Pines on July 9th. All right, great, we'll pencil you in there and, give us some basic details. All right, well, we'll call you back, or we are coming, or we aren't coming. And then Jess keeps that, like in her list of potential people that are coming on July 9th. So initially, to rent the Pines, you would have to give a deposit. And then if it rained, we would have to issue you a refund on that deposit. And that just became incredibly cumbersome to track and manage and make that happen for small groups, like little church groups that wanted to come in and out real quick. So, if they call and reserve the Pines and go through the process of reserving the Pines and they don't come, then there's no tracking that they arrived that day, obviously, or no, we didn't take any money from that.
yeah, but, so for me, that's where it's like, okay, she's already paid per Jess, paid YMCA. So, but there's nothing else of like, oh, they didn't come, That would be helpful information, like on these, if this is information that we get, like they didn't come, that's why, because looking at this, I mean, I'm going to assume that they came. because how else would I know? Like, I'm not gonna go, I don't know that on July 9th it rained. I'm impressed if it did and you remember that. But I think having that information would help in my mind to be able to say, oh, okay, so there's no tally for that day because they didn't come.
Do
Some
they-
of them are like other municipalities.
Mhm.
So like, for example, Waterboro Rec comes multiple Wednesdays in succession. So we don't charge them, we don't collect money every Wednesday that they come. We invoice them for the total amount. And then when they pay us, we submit payment through our, operational system, it's called Daxco, whatever. We input it into Daxco, into your unit, so it shows it came in, as an expense in your unit. So it wouldn't show up on the daily tally that we collected.
Yeah, well, this one it does, June 28th, Waterboro Rec, 1750. dated
So that was the check
July
for the
5th.
summer.
So that was the, and which I can say, oh, okay, I can see it says here, they came 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I know I think it's 7 times 250 is 1750, so, so yeah, that's something I can figure out, like, okay, that makes sense. They paid 1750, they
Yeah.
came 6 times. And,
So what I'm hearing, because I wasn't in the middle of the management of this component, is together, I think we need to make some additional decisions on just the deposits themselves. Do we want to have a deposit and is that refundable or not? And that's a decision you as the city has to make. And that regardless of whether it's going to be weather or not, and even if whatever we agree on, some better notation will help to clarify.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I'm hearing right now, is that we just need to be more clear on the notes that we're putting
Yeah.
regarding all of that, so it's easy for you guys to see and track.
yes,
And that way, even if it does, even if the simple math says, yes, 1750 is, 7 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Then you still shouldn't need to go through that with a note saying paid for entire summer 6 visits.
exactly, yes. I
Very
can-
simple
yes.
notations that we can manage more efficiently.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have a pretty decent form, but there's like a lot of blanks.
Yeah,
So,
it should be filled out if that's the way you're using it, should be filled out. So
Yeah.
we'll work on making sure that happens more efficiently down the line.
And do we get these forms? Like, are they sent over to us here?
They drop them off, so as part of the park management agreement, we agreed that, I think I did it, every month, and so then the 2 weeks after this month's over, you have like till the second Friday of the next month to get it all collected, and somebody drops it off here. And so that's been working out really well, and then I keep it here. And I think with the Butternut Committee, I scanned it all in, so you guys have copies of it. But, yeah. I was curious though why Arundel Parks and Recs pays 200 versus 250.
That was gonna be my next question.
Yeah, I think it was, so sometimes like even people will show up and say, oh, it says on the website that you allow dogs. So, well, we don't allow dogs, so I'm sorry, I don't know what website it is that you're looking at. And they'll pull it up on their phone because they Googled it on the way or Googled it before they left their house. And in the confines somewhere of the internet, there was a time or there was a website that said that Butternut Lake Park allowed dogs, and they showed it to me right there on their phone. And so I think what happened is that they called the YMCA to reserve the Pines and said it was $200, and then they saw the price online or whatever, and they were misquoted at the Y. So when the reservation came through and they were paying $200, rather than like going back and forth with them about whether it did or did not say that on the internet, I just said, okay, I'll honor the $200, but you need to know that moving forward, it's $250. Because, those municipalities, if we can get to them early, there would be 2 a day most days, throughout the week. Like Lebanon Parks and Rec, North Berwick Parks and Rec, Arundel Parks and Rec, all those town-run Parks and Rec summer camps are looking for places to go all the time. And Bunganut Lake Park is one of those spots. So wanting them to continue to come back and wanting them to continue to rent the Pines, I honored the $200.
Yeah, and I can understand that. And, like you said, with the caveat of, okay, no, going forward, it's $250, yeah.
Sorry that you read that, or sorry that someone at the front desk
Yeah.
told you that, or, whatever the case may be. Understand moving forward that it's $250.
Yeah. And that, I made a note, check the website for inaccuracies. I think that's
Oh, no.
important to,
And
Yeah,
once again, I
Find
think
out.
that where it would be helpful is the notation. So when something of that nature happens, if it differentiates from our normal
yes.
policies, procedures, payments, whatever, then a note needs to be put on it stating that, however we want to state it.
Yeah, I mean, and that, I think that's, yeah, just something simple, like, just so when you get it, like, we get it here, we can look, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, and that's something I think that we would understand with that explanation. At least I would understand that explanation of, but knowing that and not being like, why would they just go ahead and take the liberty to do that, It's like, so,
Do you guys have like, because you mentioned some of these other towns and like tapping into their parks and recs, and we asked about kind of advertising, like how do you get your reach? I guess, like how do you reach out, other than just, we put stuff up on the website too, but I don't think there's a heavy amount of traffic that goes to any website. Do you guys have strategies, like when you're, before the park opens, do you?
Yeah, for sure. So like leading through the spring and into the beginning of summer, I meet with the marketing director of our Y, and there's a regular Facebook presence of Bunganut Lake Park. Like, hey, looking for something to do this weekend? Come by Bunganut Lake Park, or Bunganut Lake Park is open for the season, like around the opening weekend. And so we use our social media outlets, which are incredibly powerful. Like I don't know the number off the top of my head, but YMCA Facebook page has thousands of followers. And so, I mean, we're pumping it out through those social media outlets and driving people to the park through those things the best we can. And the way the calendar falls, usually right before summer and about halfway through it, we have what's called program guides, where like our 6-week or 7-week program sessions are, advertised, like yoga, 6-week session, pay X, and then it'll start again halfway through the summer. So when it's relevant, those program guides to all of our membership, people that are going through them online, all have a spot in there that highlights and talks about Bunganut Lake Park and going there. So I mean, we're driving it to our, to our membership base and to those that, are looking for other YMCA-related programs and YMCA-related programming, but, we're not incurring the expense of running newspaper ads or getting on the radio or,
Right.
Anything like that. That's not part of the contractual amount of money or expectation that we're, like pumping out there, like advertising and like, Smitty's when you're waiting for the movie to start, like we're using our natural outlets that we utilize all of our marketing programs for, we include when relevant, Bunganut Lake Park and all of that.
But that's to promote like your program. I was just wondering if you kind of promote Pine Rentals, like even if it's just on your
This-
Facebook page, like.
I think this list of who rents the ponds is like huge valuable.
Right, but I think it sounds like too, like we could tap into something more.
Right,
So
that's what I'm
usually,
getting
like,
at.
There are,
So, to speak to that, in the spring, I have, one of my site leaders, they're called, that run before and after school childcare programs that are looking for extra hours as we come into the spring. They cold call each local rec department. And just say, hey, do you guys have your, field trips scheduled for the summer? If you don't, think about Bunganut Lake Park. Some of them book it right then and there. Others, like, yeah, we'll call you back, or yeah, it's great to know that you're there, or we'll call you if we need you. But other than cold calling rec departments, we don't do any like strategic out marketing of renting.
That's key to know.
but there are times that we will do direct Facebook, specifically highlighting through newsletters and other basic Facebook messaging that's specific to but not in the park. So there are times that it is identified, and that's the highlighted piece as we go through. We also have, when those connections go out, it links in with all the other media sources that we have, which is through parent groups and from all the local communities that we serve, from South Berwick, North Berwick, all the way up to to New Hampshire border. So our whole region includes that aspect of it. So we try to make sure that that is something that's in the mix of our cycling of messaging that goes out during the summer.
And I think that's where we can improve our partnership for that too, because I think that, I don't know, it's not linked on our town site at all, I don't believe. Is there? Okay.
Something
But
as,
somehow like highlighting it, because I just feel like before
I think
I was in this role, I had no idea, like
Yeah,
until
well,
the girls started going,
think
I was like, holy crap, this is in our town and it's free for us to come to.
Tax newsletter.
that's why I think the webpage didn't get heavy amount of traffic, so I had created and tried to put out on our own Facebook page too, I've done the Canva and tried to dress it up and took pictures and stuff like that to just sort of like push it.
Yeah,
And then beefed up the webpage too, so that there was like anchors and like these clickable links and hopefully just something that's catches your eye. So it's,
in the future, we should also think about other avenues of advertising as we get the park rolling in the Four Seasons.
I was just thinking.
Radio and TV
Yeah,
or
right.
both.
Maybe that's a,
Stuff, and that would be something that we could work into the budget.
I think the Bungana Park Committee
I mean, one
could
of
kind
the
of
things we're looking at
orientate the direction of where to
too,
go.
which would be good, is the AERT thing we're trying to get into, which also would be to senior citizens to be able to even, like, your home, help us for, what was where your grandmother lived and why did, what is it called?
Oh, yeah, it's like
Assisted living.
assisted, well, no, it's not
It wasn't
assisted living, because they're
It's like
just
a
like
55
elderly,
plus.
yeah,
Yeah,
elderly
55 plus.
apartments.
So
Yeah.
to be able to advertise to the 55 plus that you have a safe place for them to go, we're that's one of our goals, that the grant for that is in March, it's the first thing we're going after. And that's for elderly access to the water. And that would be a
We
great.
should square off those round stairs then.
Yeah. No. So that's that would be a good advertisement too, we have a section, because you only have one handicap parking slot, so we're looking at more of that, but that'd be a great advertisement there too, to go to your 55 plus places around here for them to have a little outing with their friends.
I know when we were walking around, one of the things, like when we went down and where the, it's not the gazebo, but like the little brick building thing there, the rock.
Hut that's
Yeah.
way down.
Um,
Past the fun.
I was like, wow, I mean, that's like a nice, well, it would be like a nice wedding ceremony place right there, clear out some trees and have some chairs to put out, so there's lots of different things that I think like, and I did write that down, advertising opportunities, because I think you could, put that out. I know I think there was a while ago anyway, like a website that you could go and like look for outdoor venues for weddings and things like that. It would be nice to be able to expand it that way. But during the week, I think we would need to work together to figure out, okay, what can we advertise for during the week other than, for rec, and like if we're advertising for something like the Pines or, never mind. I just went out of my head as my brain just like said.
Well, this is
And like, so
really
during the
great.
weekdays, it's really, really tricky, right? Because everybody's
Yeah.
at work, right? It's really hard. But like expanding into the 55 plus community that are, semi-retired or working their way towards full retirement with some, midday Wednesdays off, like, there's some.
Cribbage in the Pines.
Yeah, cribbage in the pines and like having those sorts of events. And when we were there, we talked about like
Sorry.
small money investment to redo horseshoe pits and,
Mhm.
put up some, just simple things like that. And, one of the big things, the 55 plus communities and the senior population we work with at the Y, right, is like upper body and shoulder mobility. So like anything volleyball, we have a huge contingency of seniors that come in and play volleyball every morning, because that action going up above your head. You know, like it could be beach ball, volleyball on Tuesdays, residents are free and non-residents are, you know, $5. You know, they're not necessarily coming to stay for the day, they're just
Yeah.
coming to play volleyball on a Tuesday morning for a few
Well,
hours.
I did try to do the survey, but it locked out on me and I lost all my information. But I did look, for like the exercise parks. And so they're just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
basically like a standalone unit.
Mhm.
And, you know, people can just come at their own leisure. And if you had a wide enough like walking trail where these were, you know, they can get on and do a little exercise and then move on.
And if you ever wanted to see them, you can come by the line, check us out in Sanford Parks and Rec, put some along there, paved Mountain Way Trail.
Oh, okay.
And they chose to put them within visibility of us, to make sure that, you know,
Safety.
safety,
Mhm.
you know, if something happened, or just general use and appropriate use, you know, so that they weren't being mistreated in random spots along the paved trail.
Yeah.
But we have some of those, you know, that are super cool on body weight, like even, you know, you sit in this little chair and you do chest presses and your chair comes up off the ground.
Yeah.
You know, it's super cool stuff like that.
So I had a link that was when it locked out when I was trying to put the link in.
And just for saying, those are some things that we have experience with. So, you know, we could have a deeper conversation
Mhm.
about, you know, the real cost of it. You know, it's not just a matter of buying the units, then you've got to get them set in the ground. And
Yes.
you also have, like you were just talking about, accessibility to them,
Mhm.
you know.
You have to
so
maintain
what-
that.
What does that look like and what does that mean?
Yes. Yeah.
If that's just a small loop that kind of goes around the
Yeah.
field, and you have 6 units, that's still pretty reasonable and probably manageable, but to put in some gravel stuff that a wheelchair could get pushed around on, you know, something that's more of a piece of its hard back.
Yeah.
So, you know, we would be happy to, you know, have deeper discussions
Yeah.
around what we know about that.
You know, it's like certainly on committee level stuff, but, you know, we're in the middle of it, but, you know, wrapping our brains around different types of passes. Like, there's a lot of uses for Bummanout Lake Park. That maybe you don't want to go there and picnic and swim. Maybe you just want to go there and fish. Well, paying $20 to access the park to go fish there for a couple hours might not be within someone's budget.
Mhm.
You know, maybe you can pay $10, you know, for a fishing pass, or $15 for a fishing pass, or, you know, when the trails are developed, you know, maybe they just want to come in and hike and have a picnic. They're not interested in picking up a waterfront picnic table and spending the day, you know, the way that, I mean, there are literally some people that pay $20 at 9 a.m. and stay for the day and leave at 8. You know, and if you correlate that to beach parking prices, that's, you know, $55 or $60 at Wells Beach for
Yeah.
the same length of time. You know, that you're occupying space at the beach and you're occupying this parking spot for that length of time. It's $55 at Wells Beach, open to close, if you pump the meter and then pay when you leave. And they're getting that for $20. So the turnover is tough. And once all those picnic tables are taken,
Yeah.
you know, there's not a lot there for people. So, you know, once the trails are developed, or like looking at different, and then you can advertise like, hey, looking for a great spot to fish, come fish for 3 hours, or come fish, you know, 4-hour fishing pass up on Lake Park. You know, you can maybe generate some more revenue and attention to the park by looking at the other things you can do at Plymouth Lake Park.
We were
Part of
getting
what-
cross-country running, if it's
Yeah.
not that far down, way down.
You know, and I've always thought it was super cool, like, you know, with, way back, you know, when Vicky Pryor was on the board and that, you know, we talked about how do we get 4-season use? Like, what does this look like? It's been a nonstop conversation since I've been a part of the
Right.
Y and coming here and
I think
speaking. to
it
the
comes and
select
goes,
board.
doesn't it?
Yeah, there's like an ebb and flow of, you know, how can we get 3-season use? Like, all right, maybe it's unrealistic to have somebody there in the dredges of winter in February, but
I
You
think
know,
the
cross-country skiing
committee
would
is
be awesome.
committed to trying to do 4 seasons.
Yeah,
We want the residents to get the best benefit. We have 7 on the board, so it's a big committee.
yeah. And that goes back, honestly, the resident piece goes back to the tracking sheet, because there were previous select boards that wanted to know how many residents were taking advantage of the free opportunity for their tax dollars in the town of Lyman. You know, so like on the tracking sheet, like that's what we thought initially, like that's why it was so weird, the first adjustment we made. You know, Lindsay was like, well, why are you tracking the number of residents and non-residents, or, you know, like why is that number there and not the number of, money-related transactions. And we were keeping track of how many residents come in and out each day because we wanted to keep track, like how often are residents of the town of Lyman truly utilizing this benefit of their tax dollar? And how many residents, if there are, just for conversation's sake, if there's 1,000 people that live in Lyman and you're only giving out 50 resident season passes, where's the gap? Why aren't all the residents in the town of Lyman coming to get their season pass? Is there a better way for them to know about it? Is there a better way to run it? Can they get in as long as there's a dump sticker on their car? Or, like we've even talked about at one point having stickers on cars. When you come to get your dump sticker, you get your Mom and a Park
That's
sticker.
Mhm.
Like you do a beach sticker, like we've talked in the years that we've been trying to figure out, get some energy around the park. Like all of these things have been talked about.
Well, I think now that we have a town manager, we will have continuity in that
Yeah.
department, and it when select board members come and go, there will be continuity with the town manager, so I think that's gonna change.
For sure.
But I think once you set up a system of that nature, for example of the stickers, that they they automatically get a sticker that allows them to come to Buck in the Park, you'll see it on there all the time. It might say, oh, well, let's stop by the park, rather than,
That'd be advertising.
But even if we just had a town alignment sticker, it didn't have to be, say, for the dump or whatever, it could be for all of those things. They're free now. Back in the day, there was a big bone of contention over
$3.
and Rolling Neto used to come with his saber to rattle, and he had a hard time paying for that
but
because
wouldn't it be?
it just
if you
it
design-
ranked him. But I think that would be the thing to do because it's right there on the windshield when they come. You don't have to prove it.
Exactly.
There it is on the car.
And then, once again, your sticker can
Go to
be
the
designed
dump
in
on
a
the
variety of ways. If it has 2 or 3 things on it, and you want people to really recognize the piece of the park, and you want to take advantage of it, most people are going to say, okay, yeah, dump, I know where that is. And I know that's something that's needed, but if you're trying to attract them to something that's an auxiliary piece, and you want them to take advantage of it, then having that picture or some sort of logo about Butternut Park it is just another subliminal message that may draw more over who, we know it in the city of Stamford. How many people drive by and go, oh, where's the Y? And they've lived here forever, and they just, we got this monster sign in the middle of the road, right? You're like, well, where? And I know that happens. People go, oh, we got a park.
So it sounds like to create some envy.
Exactly, yeah. And pride with it too, so it just helps in a good variety of different ways.
And I think that I know my family used the park a lot when my kids were young, but now my kids are older. We never use the park,
Yeah, exactly.
so it's like,
It just changed.
it just, we went there when they were young, swimming and everything, and then they got into middle school, high school, and it was like, okay, they're off doing their own thing with their friends, so I understand why don't residents use it, more? And I think it's just like people with families are like, oh, it's free, let's go to the Bunganup Park. But then it's like, okay, I'm out because my kids don't want to go. It's, me and my husband.
It's bugs here.
It's like, so.
The survey that the committee's doing though, I think we're up to 140 responses. And some of the first couple of questions is more about demographics, like what age group uses the park the most, and I see that it's landing a lot on the 55 plus. So that might help. Doing that survey will help the committee look at what we want to improve first. So if there's a majority of 55 plus, like we were talking about, kind of tapping into some of those senior communities and stuff like that. And then I think the other one was the usage of the park comes down to primarily swimming and hiking trails.
Mhm.
So I see that come up a lot in the demographics, but it'll be interesting. The survey I think ends October 31st, and then maybe we can, if we summarize that, we might share it with you guys.
We get that.
And maybe in the beginning of the season, you want to have a day that's open specifically to our 55 plus group, and have just one free day, and have something built around that so that those groups can either come on their own if they have that mobility, or the senior living communities normally will have some sort of a van transportation piece, and maybe they can come to join you for some sort of activity to get more exposure
Mhm.
to that opportunity. So there's definitely an additional, right,
Yeah,
that's where my brain starts
Mhm.
kicking in.
yeah. I mean, my goal in the whole thing is that the Bunganut is self-sustaining.
Mhm.
Like, it shouldn't be a tax burden on the residents of Lyman. You know, I think last year it was like $83,000 for what we spent for Bunganut.
Well, just to be clear, that's not just the why.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah, no, that's all of, like,
That
that's
was-
the why with the other, you know, like,
All the
mowing
operational-
and,
mowing
yeah,
operations.
you know, so it's like, for me, it would be nice that, you know, our residents, that doesn't have to come out of their tax pockets anymore. That facility sustains itself and, you know, maybe makes the residents some money so that, oh, look, we're gonna use this money to lower the tax burden or
Or
We're
invest
getting
back
there.
in.
We
invest
continue-
back into the
continue
park.
improvements,
Yes.
yeah.
That's what a true auxiliary does. It
Yes.
supports itself and continues to invest into
Yeah.
itself, so.
We're pretty close, you know, if you like divide the sides of the road, like, you know, the Y contract versus the Y, you know, the revenue of the park is pretty close. And like even this year, with all the rain that we had, if we didn't have the summer rain, I would say that this is probably the first year that the revenue would have
Yeah.
surpassed the
Yeah.
contract
Yeah.
Y,
For sure.
the Y contract. We were almost there, and it was one of the rainiest summers that I've ever experienced in my life. So I mean, I think the park side of it, we're headed in the right direction. Like, we're almost breaking even with
Yeah.
Y contract to make it go versus the revenue that we're bringing in. Like, we're right there
Yeah.
on the park side of the road. And, you know, some of the improvements and things we've discussed tonight, we're absolutely over there. We're absolutely there, no question. You know, certainly love to go to the committee and, you know, work with the Bunganut Park Committee and, you know, the Parks and Rec Committee too. There's, you know, some really,
They're both on the committee.
yeah, some like, you know, really simple, cool things, you know, like little volleyball leagues or horseshoe leagues or 50 people at Friendship Park in Waterville playing horseshoes
Mhm.
every Wednesday night. You drive down, you know, I call it Friendship Park Road. I don't even know really what it's called.
Old Alfred.
The old Alfred Road, yeah. I call it, it's the Friendship Park Road. That's where Friendship Park is. I call the Bunganut Road the Bunganut Road, because that's where Bunganut is. But, you know, you drive down there on a Wednesday night and Friendship Park is mobbed.
It's loaded.
Loaded. You know, you invest in some horseshoe pits, cheap money, and Lyman Parks and Rec are like, hey, we got a horseshoe league going. Now you're bringing people from Lyman in, and you're bringing out of towners in to play horseshoes. And I mean, you know, that's
Basketball.
We were talking basketball and tennis was the other thing. that we wanted.
huge.
Concrete slab out behind the
Yeah.
thing that's screaming basketball court, the
Oh.
old foundation out
Take
there.
advantage of what's there.
It was like, couple hoops right there. That's
Be great. So I mean, I think we're right there. We're definitely right there.
It's just like meshing the relationship.
Yeah.
That's been separate parts.
You know, and I think, you know, to Vicky's point, you know, having the town manager so that the energy is continuous. Because with the turnover of select board, you know, like people get elected on, they're incredibly excited about it, like we have this meeting, like let's do this, let's do that, yep, we can make this happen, let's blow up Bunganut Lake Park. And then the minutia of running a town starts to come to the select board and all of the other things that come to the select board and challenges and, you know, like that's one of the things
All
that
the shiny, distracting things.
really we stop.
Squirrel.
Exactly.
Well, it's true.
You know?
Different people bring different things to the table and they
Yeah.
have their, you know, priorities that they want and, things go in different directions.
Sure.
Yep, I'd love to see you at one of these meetings, one of the bunches.
And I think some of the systems that
You
we're.
get so much insight.
I'm sorry.
No, sir.
No, I was just saying, some of these systems that can get set up are things that can continue without hesitation. You know, and so once it's in order, and it becomes systematic and we tweak, you know,
Yeah.
tweak things, and we found what works, then that ongoing process will be much simpler.
Mhm. Well, I mean, I think that it's, the whole thing flows together when everybody feels like they're working together for the common good of, you know, and that continuous conversation of, hey, we haven't had a trash pickup for many weeks. I know when we went over there, the trash wasn't there. There was some there was something, it
Oh, I
either
mean,
had
talking about the
died
smell.
or we couldn't figure out what it was. But I was like, oh
It
my
was
God,
like a
if
dead
that is
animal.
leftover
Oh,
from
for
the
sure.
trash, how could they even have
Closet or something.
kids
Yeah.
out there, you
I mean,
know?
So far from the dumpster though.
Yeah.
We were up at the mansion
Yeah.
when we were smelling that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
so it
was-
probably was something dead, and I don't wanna, tell horrible
It
stories.
was
but
brutal.
every year, for the past 3, we've had experiences of fawns.
Oh,
Like we'll go in pre-season just before the park sets open and start doing our setup stuff and cleanup stuff and unchaining picnic tables and putting them where they're supposed to go and, see it,
Yeah.
it's hard.
It was bad, whatever it
Like an
was.
Oh, yeah, it
animal got
was,
like a
you know.
coyote got it or something?
No, I think, so when I called the game warden and said, hey, you coming to get this, and then when they were done laughing at me,
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Like, oh,
like,
they-
we're definitely not going
Yeah.
to get that. It's like, really? But they said what probably happened is that mom was crossing the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mom didn't come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the fawn was like, well, I'm gonna chill out right here. And then,
And
not quite
oh,
ready
gotcha,
to,
okay.
not quite ready to live on its own yet, and probably still looking for some nourishment from mom and teaching them where to find food and
Yeah,
what to eat.
definitely
Yeah.
seen some that have gotten hit.
and
Every spring, like it's been probably, I can concretely say the past 3 years,
Yeah.
it's been more than
Oh.
just that.
Not too bad.
So, to go there early season and walk around or to go there, at a time, when we're there a ton and the park's hustling and bustling, they stay away, but they know when we leave.
Yeah, when it's quiet.
For
You're like,
sure.
This is
They
perfect.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see the tracks everywhere, trotting across the bridges and, I mean, they're all about it. They're all about it. You can see them all over in there, for sure. And to the dog point, that's one of the frustrating things for me. Not the dogs, but the roadside parking. Because they'll wait until 7:00 and then the roadside fills. And then we've left, but there's still enough daylight to take your dog for a walk and they go pouring in there and they walk dogs up and down. Right now, if you go there, there's gonna be 3 or 4 cars parked out in front of the gates at Palmetto Lake Park. And they're in there with dogs, they're in there with
Don't exist anymore.
yeah, they're in there with horses. I mean, like we go in there sometimes and we find every spring we go in to like clean up. We go down to the amphitheater and there's giant piles of horse manure.
Oh,
Horses, like people are getting horses down in there from somewhere, like trotting around Butternut Lake Park.
So they know where the trails are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the trails figured out
Yeah.
for sure.
You could
Yeah.
give us a map.
Yeah, maybe they can draw us a map and tell us how they're getting down in there for sure. And then that's really hard. Like the roadside parking piece is really hard. It's a hard thing for us to manage and, prior to, like it's a fight every year. Like, well, all right, we're gonna start charging you effective, Memorial Day. And they're like, but we've been coming here for months and parking on the side of the road. Because as soon as the snow gone and the ice is out, they're in there the whole month of April and depending upon the year, they're in there late March, all of April, bunch of May until Memorial Day.
Are you talking residents or non-residents?
Everybody, yeah.
You don't know. Do you know? There's no way to know
You just
that
see
way.
cars.
There's no way to know, yeah. And then to have the gates, left open, like it's a tough thing. I get that you want resident access year round. I get that, but resident access year round means also non-resident access year round.
Mm.
And that's tough to police. And then all of a sudden we show up Memorial Day and we're like, oh, we're charging now. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? I've been here every day with my dog. Like, well, there's no dogs. And you owe us $20.
Right?
Like, they're
And
like,
that's not unusual for seasonal
Yeah.
usage of
Right.
facilities,
No.
especially
Oh, yeah.
around here.
Just refer them to us,
Yeah.
to here, to the town hall. 'cause-
Oh, no.
But it's just,
Shouldn't
as we-
have to
as we
deal with
talk
that
about
too much.
some of the Challenges. The other thing that I know that was addressed again over the summer, and because we had such heavy rain, we really had to take a look at the parking and the accessibility when that, we just got washed out.
Mhm.
Huge ruts that minimized the amount of parking that we could use and accessibility.
Or even the kids.
Yeah.
You would get in there.
I'm like, I don't go on the right side anymore. I just
Yeah.
pull right in.
Yeah,
And we're-
on the left side of the booth.
Yeah.
Was the town notified that that had happened? that there were
Yeah,
washouts. Because when we went out and walked it, I mean, there was a part on the right and we were like, I mean, there was like a week or so, I feel like it wasn't.
It was like a week or two.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, it's probably not worth fixing that now, but at least knowing about it, because I hadn't heard about it. And
But it was in the ARPA money to re-gravel that
Yeah,
whole
we
parking
didn't
lot.
have any fun, so like we did, I think we talked about the Pines was really messed up, it was, and so I had.
Porta potty guy said he wasn't gonna get out there
we
anymore
couldn't
unless
get
we did
trucks
something.
down there, so our road commissioner did go in and fix it, but it's finding the money too. We didn't have any money budgeted for a lot of that stuff, and I think, again, when, with the parks, bumming that committee too, like that's gonna be another, because that's gonna fall under accessibility for a lot of people. I think the parking lots need to be expanded, definitely down by the Pines as well.
Especially
And
if
then-
they're
there,
advertised
And
for,
if you go there for a
Excessive.
soccer game, it's
Yeah.
it's chaos.
I mean, we tried to like bid,
People
To
parking
do
there for
what?
Saturday soccer games, right?
Or even, I only went on
Saturday.
I went on a Wednesday night and there was like a couple different games happening for you all, and I parked it where you, on the beach side, I parked on the, field side, and it's just crazy.
so I think.
Softball was
it
bad, and
It
it's
always
not.
sounds to me like it needs to be expanded, because I've heard that a lot, it just gets filled up certain times, so I
Well,
think.
there's not really a rhyme or reason, like some people have logical parking brains and other people do not. So it just is, it's chaos in
that's a
there.
good way to put it, logical parking brains.
Yeah.
So,
So the contract, I think, is gonna expire in the next fiscal year, which is kind of why I brought it to light anyways, because we have to talk about budgeting at some point. But do you guys have any questions on the contract or issues,
No,
concerns?
I've read through it again today just to refresh. I think that, we've set up a pretty good contract over the years and tweaked things along the way. And, I'll read through it again, more in detail, before we go into that next round of contract signings. But happy to have a discussion if we think there's something missing that we want to add from either side, or delete it. I know there's been times where stuff just kind of got outdated. And like, well, this really doesn't pertain anymore because it's not something that's, aligned in the contract, or we've taken it out over certain times in the contract. And we've been, this is, I think, going close to 18 years that we've been working with you guys together, so it's been a
I
long
think-
time. What's that?
I think the biggest thing for me, and I think everyone here would agree, just after all the walkthroughs and conversations, is not so much any change to the actual contract, so much as it's like SOPs added to the part, like the
parking
rules or
management
guidelines or whatever the heck we call them, like what happens at opening, what happens at closing, and I think it just makes it documented for both sides of it. But that's just my own thing that I'd like to see. So-
Yeah, no, I agree, and clear cut lines around budgeting, like when picnic tables break, and you gotta replace one 2x6 that's 10 feet long, for me, sometimes, I gotta be honest, I just get caught up in the get it done mindset, and then I'm just like, tell the facilities director, hey, I need a 10-foot 2x6, bring it here, and then that ultimately that ends up coming into our cost, but if we're gonna incur the cost of repairing, replacing and maintaining picnic tables, then the contract number should reflect that, or, we should have a clean and clear path of communication around here's the lumber I need each
Picnic
spring.
table fund.
Right.
Who's gonna order that lumber, how's it gonna get to the park? We can use the payroll that's allotted from the contract to pay the people to go in there and do the work. But how do we get it? It gets, when stuff happens like that, it's just like, okay, we gotta get that fixed. Like, all right, let's just fix it.
Because, we're appropriated every year annual town meeting, so it's like really important if you guys are the eyes on that park and you notice this is falling apart, this is breaking down, that maybe, and I think to Jessica's point, like having that sort of checklist, like opening park checklist, closing park checklist would be probably run through, okay, what looks haggard and needs to be replaced. Because for us, we're doing budgeting now for the next fiscal year that starts July of 2024. So we won't even know how much, this is this fall. Fall is a good time to say, here's what we need when we go to open this place.
Tables are trashed.
Yeah. So that we can have the forethought to put the money in our
Or we
budget.
even have,
for it.
or we even have an
Well,
average,
yeah,
right?
but-
Like we know that every year we end up having to fix at least 5 picnic tables, so
Yeah.
that equates to about this much, like that kind of a.
Yeah, if we had like a ballpark, like, here's what it might take generally, and then we could either fall below that or over it and have to kind of work it out and deal with it.
But to your point, the
Basically,
assessment
budgeting
each
is
year,
guessing
you're like,
right
yeah,
now.
that's in line, or like, wow, that's a bad year.
Yeah, I like the sandbox when we went and did the walkthrough. Two of the boards were missing, and we had also, Priscilla picked out a whole solo cup full of glass in screws that was in the sandbox. And then, like the old hibachis that are off to the side, like having to walk through and be able to say, these things need to be removed, someone needs to come and get these.
Yeah.
So they're out of there, not just rusting there. Because Vicky even said
I'll bring it up at the next select board
Um,
meeting.
But just so they know, but like, we picked as much glass and screws as we could out, but even like the slide has a butt catcher.
Yep.
It's ripped.
That could really hurt.
That could pinch a biscuit on the way down like, for our
Sure.
little kids, so that's something that we brought to the attention of the select board, but things like that to know, by spring, we have to have this fixed, or the sandbox needs to be totally dug out, and of course, the swamp area, so it was entertaining.
Yeah, and this year, like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like it was starting to grow wetland grass.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely
It's
want to
like-
make sure you get to it
That's
before
it.
it becomes a temporary vernal pool.
Oh,
That's,
my
yeah,
gosh.
their second lake at the Bunganuts.
Yeah, basically.
Or it could be a kid's swimmer.
Yeah,
It could be a mud spa,
There were definitely children playing in it as a mud spa.
I know, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was a
That's a
blast.
good time right there.
That's a
My
lot
kids
of-
used to play in that when there was,
Yeah,
they're like, it's
sure.
warmer than that. I'm like, oh,
Exactly.
whatever, go ahead.
Yeah, there wasn't a week this summer that there wasn't standing water in that pool.
So do you do together, or is it just one of you that goes in to open it?
I do it, yeah, me and my crew.
So you could potentially like start thinking of like, okay, opening it up, like getting the checklist going, like, I don't know, I mean, Lindsay would not know, we've never gone over there to
Yeah,
open.
for
So to know, like, we don't know what, I think as a board or,
I think it would be good, like helpful, like we did a walkthrough, Rusty and Tom and yourself and myself, like maybe we do, spring walkthrough and fall walkthrough or something,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
something like that. And then we all can have eyes on and.
I prefer to skip.
No, we can skip through there if you want to.
Yeah,
For sure,
heck yeah,
I'm into it.
let's go.
The one that was on the swing set the whole time.
Oh, yeah, she made sure they were safe.
She was
She's-
awesome.
Well, somebody's got to test it.
Yeah.
It was over there.
She did,
It was
yeah.
awesome. We
I
were-
think I probably even smiled while I was doing it.
I think I heard some tee-hees and,
Well, and I think that these are all, I really appreciate these conversations. The more of these conversations we've had, and this is, I think, what has brought us to be more successful over the last couple of contracts, is having these more in-depth conversations. And over the last couple of years, especially, that we're really just connecting and trying to fit things together that work for what the needs are and meeting the needs of the expectations. So, in the contract, if we want to talk about having a pre and post walkthrough, I think that's a great idea. And I think even, to have some of those other standard operating procedures of, opening and closing operations, and then standard operations for the communication and the connections of when something is not going right. How do we do that? Is that through a work order? Is it through just a phone call? Is it an email? Just so that there's a sense of tracking so that we can become more efficient and meet that expectation.
That's what I was just thinking
Yeah.
about, putting in a requisition or something similar to that. And then, if, it's not the wife's responsibility to fix that, but if you're able to fix it and you have your eyes on it and all, you shouldn't have to be paying for the materials and stuff. You put in the requisition for it and we have it delivered there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
And
be
depending
something that we
upon,
can.
who's part of the Parks and Rec committee, there was a few years where I could call Holly, and she was great, right? I'd say like, all right, Holly, I need 5 gallons of, I can't remember the official name, candy apple red picnic table stain. And she's like, all right, great, I'll call Sherwin, like, where do you want to get it? And I would say, well, the easiest place for us to pick it up and get it there is Sherwin-Williams in Springville. She calls Sherwin-Williams in Springville, she uses Parks and Rec funding, orders the bucket, I swing by and grab it, and then, you know, we have the booth staff go around and spend the day like painting and touching up picnic tables. So, you know, having, you know, do I continue to go to Holly and ask for those things? And she pulls it out of Parks and Rec, or now with Lindsay in place, do I go to Lindsay? And she goes, you know, she goes to Holly. So just having some like direct communication around, because that was super easy, you know, and I think even one time, she did one, there was one year where we needed more wood than, you know, I could just go and pick up. It was more than just a couple of boards, and I needed a substantial amount of lumber to fix up some picnic tables in the Pines in particular. And she ordered it through the Parks and Rec budget, you know, through the lumber yard right by the Y, and I just picked it up in my truck on the way to the park one day. And the facilities guys came out and did all the repairs. So, you know, like that level of partnership is, you know, really the way that I would like for it to go. Like, I don't want it to get over, like, micromanage, like, you know, me submit to you a list of,
Yeah.
you know, things, and then it has to come to the board approves it, and then, you know, weeks go by and there's broken picnic tables that no one's using, or, you know, that they're blowing up Facebook pages about, you know,
Right.
the picnic
No,
table
that's-
is falling outside, like, rah, 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 like, I don't know how to take care of it, like. And so when I was able to contact Holly, that was great, you know, and this year, you know, it was great when we were able to contact Lindsay and get that dumpster there, like, can you split, because.
Most of it, as if we're preparing for the future, is gonna help out the most. So like where we're looking and having this conversation and this communication and stuff, and we're going, okay, this is what needs to be fixed before we open. That helps, I think, the board and ourselves to like develop a budget. So maybe we have, because if it's just little things, you know, we spend the money. It's when it gets over 5,000, we have to get quotes, and if it gets over 10,000, we have to do bids. But I don't think anything really gets to that extreme with most of it. So it's just gonna come
I
down
was gonna
to.
say, we can piece that out any way you need it to
Yeah.
happen.
So I think most of it's just communication, but I wouldn't want you guys to have to like fill out extra forms or anything like that. And I think for me, email works great because it's written, so I can search it, I can go back, I can pull it up. If it was like, oh, where did we land on that? I can always search all my emails and pull it up right there. So it wouldn't have to be like an cumbersome form, but an email that specifies the detail, like, you know, 3 picnic tables are broken, you know, and we need paint or something like that. So an email for me works great. And as far as who to contact, I don't know. I can talk with Holly. She's part-time, so I
Is it
don't
still
want to
Holly
like.
and Andrea, those are the two?
I don't
Holly
know.
and
Holly,
Ollie,
right?
and then
Holly.
there's a couple
Oh,
others.
another Holly.
Yeah.
So, Holly I know is Holly Hart.
Yeah, she's
Holly.
still,
Which is the other one. Can I ask a
but
question?
again, they're only part-time, sorry.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
full-time, so you have to get a response quicker.
Yeah.
Who did the day of caring? And how
So
did that stop?
that's one of the really sort of challenging pieces that
Because we were gonna try
used to
and
be
get that going again.
tremendous.
Right,
So, and it's all through sort of the development and transition of the United Way in general, right? So
right. And they renamed it something.
they renamed it and they relocated it to like the United Way of Southern Maine or something, yeah, the United Way of Southern Maine, and they're housed out of Portland.
Mhm.
And one of the things that the United Way actually got rid of was what we know as the Day of Caring. So there's no longer like the one day, we'll just say June 15th,
Mhm.
where the United Way goes to large corporate America companies and says, can you donate X number of your employees for the day to go and complete these service projects? That doesn't exist anymore. It's all on a case-by-case, project-by-project situation.
Mhm.
So if you have something that you want to have accomplished, you go to the United Way of Southern Maine and you fill out this application and give them a scope of work of what it is that you would need to be done. Then they put that out through their partnership and corporate channels. And we hope that one of those partners and corporate channels of the United Way of Southern Maine bites on that project, accepts it. United Way of Southern Maine tells us that they've accepted it, and we coordinate from there. So in years past, a lot of the opening checklist I would accomplish through the day of caring. Every inch of the beaches, every trail that was utilized, parking lots, trees, bamboo getting cut back, like the opening landscape work, for lack of better terms, that needs to be done to get the park ready to be used. I would say, I need 30 volunteers at Bunganut Lake Park on the day of caring. And I'd ask for 30, most years I'd get like 24 to 26. All would bring their own rakes, some would bring chainsaws, and we would just go at it for the day for, a little bit of breakfast food when they arrived and some pizza at lunch. And we were able to accomplish that with our nonprofit status because of our partnership and, collaboration with the United Way, which was mutually beneficial clearly to the town of Lyman and to us as well, because it got, the property ready for camp, it got the property ready for the operation of the park. So it was a win-win. And when the United Way went a different direction with that, now it's us going out there and raking every trail and, doing all that work. So like, Vicky said, getting the community excited about it, an idea is to have a community day at Bunganut Lake Park, like pump it out throughout the town.
We already
Okay,
thought of that.
bring your rakes, bring your loppers, like if you're comfortable with the chainsaw, bring that too. And if you like building picnic tables, bring a hammer, we'll have some wood and, get the town invested in what's happening out there and
Maybe have a weekend of it.
have a weekend of it for sure. I think at one meeting I had shared that when I was in high school, back in the day when you could do all sorts of things and viability wasn't in the forefront of everybody's mind, me and every other high school kid that lived in the town of Lyman would meet Morris Sinclair at Rhodes Hall.
Oh, I remember you
And
guys
we would-
used to sweep the roads.
Yeah, we would like jump in pickup trucks with like street brooms and we'd go to Bunganut, we'd go to Kennebunk Pond and we'd rake that whole parking lot at Kennebunk Pond, and it was like over April break. And I remember I got paid $200 one year. First year I got paid $150 for the week from the town to go and work all week with Morris. No matter what he asked us to do, no matter where he took us. Like sometimes, we were clearing brush that fell in the winter on the roadside that needed to get out so the roadsides could drain. And, we would literally jump in the back of pickup trucks and like cruise through neighborhoods and sweep streets.
Nice, back in the good old days.
Yeah, back in the good old days. Like,
I know we did, for
There's
the
no
last
helicopter.
couple of years, they've organized through the town, was a resident, and then the PTC did the Earth Day cleanup. So maybe it's a, Bunganut committee picks a day, like, okay, we know when you guys open,
yeah.
like, let's go in and,
Pray and see what we can do.
yeah, I like that idea.
I would think
And I
that
think that-
early May would be a good time.
Mhm.
That gives us plenty of time to
Yeah,
make up, so whatever, if it happens to be a rain day, you don't get the volunteers you're expecting,
Yeah.
either reset a second makeup day or be able to have enough time to go through and,
Or maybe we had 2 weekends that we had, so if you can't make one weekend, you pick the other.
yeah.
The other time frame to consider too, and the other source of labor that you may consider tapping into is that I'm sure Massabesic High School has a volunteer requirement for graduation. So you start pumping out like, hey, during April break, you'll get you your volunteer hours real quick. Meet us at Bunganut Lake Park on Wednesday and Thursday, and put all those high school kids that are looking to get those volunteer hours done and don't have other avenues to do it. Not everybody wants to help coach football or be a junior Girl Scout leader or whatever. Not everybody's into that, or they got so much other stuff going on. Timing for that is really difficult.
Yeah.
And if you gave them an opportunity or like a one-shot opportunity, like, hey, come to Bunganut Lake Park over April break. We know you're not in school, like 8 to 12, and you can crank out your graduation volunteer hours right this week. Like, let's get it done.
I feel like something changed with the volunteer hours. I think you can include family hours.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think family hours are now included in the child's hours or something weird
That's
like that.
ridiculous.
yeah.
But that would be even more beneficial.
Massabesic, hey, you do so well.
Because would a project like, we had seen all the big pile of chips across the way,
Yeah.
like, if you went to the United Way for their corporate thing and you wanted to submit to have someone take those chips and put it on the paths on the lakeside,
Yeah.
would that be a big enough project for them to,
For sure.
because that's
So-
one thing centralized that maybe someone with wheelbarrows and equipment.
Yeah, you would just need Tinker Tom, I think, to put some wood chip deposits ahead of time.
Right.
Because when we do it, we'll fill the bed of my personal pickup truck at the pile,
Mhm.
And then I'll
Right.
drive them across the street and get them as close to we can to some of these trails that we try to put them on.
Yeah.
But if like, if Tinker Tom could go in a couple days ahead of time with a, 5-yard dump or a 3-yard dump truck, it doesn't even have to be big, and use a tractor to fill that thing, and then, put one over by the volleyball court, and put a pile of wood chips from the major pile, at the top of the parking lot, and, have 3 or 4 like wood chip depot spots. Then you could have
Say the
Hannaford
right?
come in,
Yeah,
and then it's realistic to move a wheelbarrow full from the depot to the trail where they're
Right.
gonna lay it down.
Right, okay.
Wheelbarrows across the street, down the hill, like,
yeah, that's
I've
like
done that,
over hill,
that's
over
brutal.
tail.
I think I, at one point, tried to get the boot staff to do that, and they were like, no, dude, I'm not wheelbarrow.
It's way.
Across the street.
It's way back
Not
there,
doing
but it's way back there.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's a huge mile.
it is. I got nervous once because it started to mulch, and I showed up on a cool morning, and there was like smoke
Heat,
coming up out of it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Awesome.
We got all, that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's a good
Anybody have
starting.
Anything else we want to address before we?
I'm good, I like the partnership, I like the communication. I hope we can continue, that we continue to work together. Would be my goal. Even with the changes in the park, if it all comes together,
Yeah,
I like where the direction we are at going in.
yeah, we do too, it's great, like, we are an invested partner, we like it, benefits everybody.
Communication. Just
Well, it's great
communication.
for the kids too, it's great memories they're gonna have someday.
Yeah, for sure. One of the quick stories I tell about having the opportunity to offer summer camp on that piece of property is, for a lot of kids we serve, the only body of water that they have frame of reference to is number 1 pond, which is that tiny little thing in the heart of Sanford where you can catch a ski shot.
Mhm.
That's it. And you put them on a bus and take them from that environment out to Buckeye Lake Park and drop them off in the woods, I was fortunate to grow up in the town of Lyman and ride my bike to Dayton sand and gravel through trails and build tree houses that I stole from my dad's wood that he was gonna build a deck with the next weekend, and really, really fortunate core memories that some of the kids we serve don't have the opportunity to make. And by running summer camp at Buckeye Lake Park, we are creating those memories, we're creating those opportunities. Right back to the Eagle Scout that did all that work and used his drone to map out the trails and made the, trifold pamphlet, and he wood burned in the signs, and it was gorgeous. He was a Camp Marlin camper his whole life. And so when his scoutmaster said, what do you want to do for your Eagle Scout project? He said, this is what I want to do. And then he lived in Lyman. It was benefit to the town, and it was benefit to, his camp that he went to.
Mhm.
It was awesome. It was really, really cool. It was super cool.
The Historical Society is also digging up the history of Buckeye.
So one of the guys who works in our facilities department did that. And we sat down over coffee at the beginning of the year this year, and he told me some of the stuff he found about the hotel that used to be there.
That's what we're trying to track down, is pictures.
Yeah,
Bring him to the meeting too.
This guy Rod Buckland, who works for us, he's the guy that goes and blows off the lines. He's like, stereotypical jack of all trades, can do absolutely anything you ask him. And he's a tremendous asset, and he's a great guy. But, he's so in love with Buckeye Lake Park that he went and found pictures of the hotels
Can
and
you get the copy of that
yeah,
stuff?
for sure. It's wild. He walked out
Yeah,
behind
interesting.
where the irrigation pond is
Yeah.
Yeah.
and found the foundations of some of the old buildings that were this.
Yeah.
It was like a resort. Buckeye Lake Park was like a upper, affluent resort that people would come in by train and get rides from the train station to Buckeye Lake Park and spend a week with their family. It's wild. It's awesome. And then from that to the Boy Scout camp that used to be there, it's really cool. It's cool.
Yeah, it'd be
cool stuff.
awesome to have that data that he has.
Yeah, for sure.
Pictures.
When he comes to work next week, I'll start banging on him about it.
Awesome. I'm willing to come pick it up too,
Yeah, for sure.
at the Y.
All right. Guess we're good. All right.
Good to go.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, Tracy, better.
So that got in front of me tonight.
I know, I saw you.
My eye is twitching, it's all glittery over here.
See the spots, yeah.
Good thing I drove.